Welcome to Better Together.
A place where we dive deep into everyday subjects.
We are your hosts, Julian
and Carolina, two psychologists that travel the world and are very excited about the whole human experience.
So without further ado, let's dive into the episode.
Welcome to another episode of Better Together. Today we come to you with a topic that is very close to our hearts. And that's what we say every week. But we're talking about insights and what to do when you get an insight.
Yes, they can be so revolutionary once you understand and realize something new about your life. But if you don't implement it, nothing is going to change.
Exactly. So last night we were reflecting on insights and we came up with a 5-step process on what to do when you get an insight. We were thinking about sharing it with our coachees when we're working with somebody, so they can integrate whatever we learned in that session, whatever we uncovered. But I think it applies to pretty much everything in life. So it doesn't even have to be in a therapy session or a coaching session. It can be that you just came to a realization on your own or with a friend, and then you need to integrate it in your life to make it meaningful, because realizations by themselves don't do much.
And what is an insight? What is a realization? How would you describe it?
It's this sudden knowing that the way that you're doing things, it's not the only way of doing things. I think that applies mostly to psychology, but it's I would use the metaphor of being a character in The Sims and being constantly going from the fridge to the water the sink to wash the dishes and doing all of these things that are the tasks that you need to do. And then having an insight is actually realizing, oh wait, I'm not The Sims. I'm the person managing The Sims. And instead of washing the dishes, I could do this other thing. So it's almost like this zoomed out perspective where you realize the patterns that you are performing, the beliefs that you have, and then you also de-identify with them for a second. Because it's that de-identification that's an invented word. But it's in that moment when you separate yourself from what your pattern or your belief that you can see it clearly and you're like, oh, I'm not that. And it could be different. I have no idea if I explained it clearly.
Yeah, I think just to clarify a little bit, it feels like you just take a step back and realize what behavior you've been done or a belief you have, and understanding that this is behavior, but it could be different.
And examples. Maybe we can use some examples.
Yeah, I think now we go into the story that I wanted to share, which is, I think, one that I shared probably a couple of times already, which is connected to my coping mechanism when something is challenging or difficult, or I hear something from the outside being thrown at me, let's say, whatever that means.
Any time that you are in distress.
In distress or overwhelmed or something like that. And what that usually happens, or what happened, was that I pull myself down. There's this spiral of negative thoughts and tell me how bad I am. I will never be able to do this. Everybody else is so much better in everything or this specific thing, and I won't be able to ever get there. Something like that could it sound like for me. And that was happening in one specific moment, I don't know, about a couple years ago, where I noticed myself being sort of in bed. I don't know if it was crying or not, but just was pulling myself down and feeling so bad about myself. Like, tremendously. I would have loved to just sink in the bed and just vanish. I don't know what reason anymore, but that's how it felt. But then at this moment, I realized exactly that I am doing this, and it's not helping me at all. And I think it did help me at some point in my childhood when I got attention, when people supported me when I was pulling myself down and lifting myself up. They tried to lift me up. But now, it's not happening anymore.
Yeah, you were on your own.
I was on my own in my bed. Nobody there. Nobody could pay attention to me. And so I was like, okay, damn it. So I have to do it myself. So like there's nobody helping me. And so that's when I noticed that this mechanism is not helping anymore. It was at some point, not anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's an insight when I noticed, hey, that's the behavior I've been doing all the time. It's not helping, and there is another way.
Yes.
That I noticed that I was just running in loops and nothing would change.
Yeah, and you identify with it and you think that's the only way of being. And then when you zoom out, you realize, oh, wait, I could be actually not beating myself up or making myself small or not feeling sorry for myself. I could react differently.
I believed at that point that I was shit. And so I think that's the big part. It's a belief and or a behavior that you realize could be different, and that's holding you back in some way or the other.
Yeah. So that's an example of an insight that you have. It could be smaller insights, like, for example, oh, I could actually cut sugar quite a bit, at least by 50%. So realizing that in your fridge, you have a lot of junk food that you could get rid of, and then that would just cut your sugar consumption. That could be an insight. Or another insight would be, maybe I need to turn off my phone after 10 or put it in airplane mode so then I can wind down properly and get ready for sleep. Those are insights.
Those little things, right? All of those things can be insights. If that resonates with you, it's like, oh, damn it, I should have done this differently. Something like that could sound like.
Yes, and it can be positive as well. So it can be from a positive impulse. It doesn't necessarily have to be from a negative impulse. I have this a lot in the coaching sessions when I'm telling people that they don't have to stick with their job if they don't like it. And then they have this big revelation moment, which is like, I could actually quit. I could actually apply to new jobs. I could try to do my own thing. So then this whole world opens up. And this is an insight. This is a revelation that it's really positive. Like, it's not coming from a dark place, like that they're miserable, but yeah, they're stuck. And then they see this new way of doing things. So we created a 5-step process for navigating your insights, because it doesn't just suffice to have an insight and say, oh, I could change my job. You need to ride the wave of the insight. You need to navigate it in order to let it settle within you. Because at that time, for example, when Julian was saying that he was feeling sorry for himself, he could have continued in that pattern, like just had that moment of misery and then continued again. And it happened a little bit.
And I had the insight multiple times before, but I did not integrate it.
Exactly.
So that's where this comes into place, that you want to shorten the time that you need actually from getting those insights to integrating them into your life, becoming a different person.
Exactly.
So step 1.
Step 1, getting the insight. This is the one that we already explained. We gave a bunch of examples. And your insights can come from a dream, can come from a conversation, they can come from journaling, or anything. Just like a brain fart that you real, like all of a sudden like shakes you up of the illusion that everything is that way forever. And then you think of new perspectives. A new perspective pops in. So you get the insight, and this is your invitation for change.
That's a nice way of saying it. You invite to change, but you still have to accept it and do something with it. And then we move to the second step.
Yes. Where you enhance it. You enhance the insight. If it's an insight where you're like, small, I'll pass, or not really ready to dive into, then yeah, we'll just fade away. But you can enhance it. You can make it big and say, for example, how much is this affecting my life? How much my life could be better if I would just switch this pattern?
And so in the example for me was, I had this just one situation. I think it was something in the university context. Whatever, didn't matter. But it was one specific context I was pitying myself for. And making it big means, in which other areas of my life am I also pulling myself down or perpetrating that pattern? And I think that's where it becomes really valuable. When you notice, oh, this way of behaving is not only in the specific context, but it applies to a bunch of different things. So it also applied in our relationship that we noticed this pattern. It applied in the relationship with my friends. It applied in the work context.
With your family.
With my family. A lot of different areas this pattern was happening and not lifting me up at all. It was really, really bad. It was not helpful anymore.
At some point it was helpful, but not anymore. Yes. So if you have a pattern, it usually is not as small as it seems. It might seem like, oh, I have a bunch of sugar-full things in my fridge, and it's just some things that I bought. But also the pattern of constantly buying sugary things. But let's explore this metaphor, this example. So why do you buy those sugary things in the supermarket? And when do you consume them? Do you consume them because you're feeling sad and you're having like a dip in your mood, and then you need to have something that lifts you up? When did you start eating this? And how is this helping you to cope with life? So you make it big. Like, you notice this pattern that sugar is actually almost a crutch for your life, and then you're like, whoa. Okay, let's make it less powerful at least.
Are you quite compulsive and go always for the easy option, for example? That could be like just an example of how you deal also with the things in other life areas of your life.
And disclaimer, I'm that person that relies on sugar. I don't buy many processed foods, so I don't have the temptation. But if I would have them, I probably would succumb to eating a lot of sugar.
For sure. If I have them available, I'm eating them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an example. So first, get an insight. That's the step one. And step two is make it big. See how much it stretches over your life. Now let's go to step 3.
So once you've figured, okay, this is a really big issue, and I would like to change it. It would be nice to be different. Then the next step is really actually deciding to make a change. Fully committing to, whenever this is happening, I want to act differently.
Yes.
Even though it's this pattern and it's nice, you feel comfortable. It's almost your comfort zone. At least it was for me, to self-pity and to pull myself down. That was my comfort zone. That's the behavior I was used to. And so now, whenever I notice the state coming up, I'm like, I'm not succumbing to you.
Yeah.
I notice it's sometimes still coming up, but I'm instantly cutting it off.
Yes. So deciding in this step 3, deciding to change is a commitment you make to yourself. It's not like, oh, it's nice, I had this insight, and you forget it. It's like, I have this insight, it's affecting my life a great deal, and I'm willing to do something about it. You almost flip a switch in your head that every time that this happens, brain, please let me know. Like, let me know if I'm falling into the old pattern. I'll switch. And in a way is signing a contract with your personal development. You're signaling to yourself, to your brain, that this is no longer cool and that you want to shift your narrative or shift your reality. So this is a separate step because it's so important.
Yeah.
It could have been just omitted and just like, oh yeah, you have an insight and you continue. But actually, if you don't decide to change it, you don't change it. Like insights by themselves are nothing. I know a lot of people that are very good at getting insights, but not very good at getting transformed because of the insights.
They cognitively know that I should do things differently, and they get insights through even psychedelic experiences, feeling connected to the oneness, and then just like, yeah, but I don't really feel like changing it. It's fine.
It's fine.
Whatever.
Everything's
It's not
fine.
too bad.
Yes. So
And that keeps you away from actually changing, than not committing.
yes. So flip the switch, make the commitment. If you're not ready, be conscious about it and be honest. Say, I don't want to change this right now. I need the sugar. I need the self-pity right now. I'm not feeling in a strong place or whatever, but just be conscious. Whether you decide to move on or not, and if you decide not to move on, then maybe put it in your calendar. If you use Google Calendar, put it to check in again in 6 months. Don't leave an insight just to waste. It's such a pity to actually have an insight and then just forget about it. So you can put it in your calendar, check in again in 6 months, see if it's still something you're not interested in working on, or if it shifted. Maybe circumstances in life made you go deeper in that insight without you even wanting to. So yeah, decide to change. That's the third step. Now we move to the fourth step, which is get practical.
Yes.
Because so far we have been in the realm of contemplation. But because we live on Earth and because we have a brain that works on neural connections, then we need to get practical on how will we change this better.
So what are the exact steps that you want to do if the situation or the feeling or the thought occurs again that you want to change? So for me, I use the example again. I notice whenever this feeling is coming up that I talk bad to myself, that I notice I pull myself down in situations or compare myself to others being a lot better, and then feeling this I know it very clearly, this feeling of self-pity or like I'm not good enough in whatever context. I know this feeling very, very well. And whenever this comes up, I'm instantly shifting, either not allowing first the thought to really follow up with other thoughts, but then also moving. Changing my physiology helps me a ton to make sure that I don't continue in this downward spiral.
What do you mean by changing your physiology?
Can be just going for a walk, can be just standing up, doing some stretching exercises, breathing, anything like that.
Okay.
Whatever fits the most right now. Quite often, a couple of breathing exercises are good enough. Deep breathing into the belly, standing up, stretching. That usually but gets me into in a position of more control, that I can actually decide how I want to feel and don't fall into the trap.
Yes.
Into the old pattern.
And for other example, the example of the sugar, for example, then in that case, it would be maybe when you are in the supermarket and you get the thought of buying the sweets, you don't buy them then. And if you have an insight of, let's say, like, it's a bit hippie, but let's say that every person in the world is a brother and a sister. So think if that's your framework and the new framework that you will adapt to your life, that your insight moved you enough that now you will see everybody as a brother and a sister. How does your life change in practical terms? Will you just allow everything? Will you not set boundaries? Will you be friends with every stranger you meet because they are family to you. What does that mean? What does that mean for your life? So whatever is the insight that you have, make sure you think through how that's going to look like in real life applied. Let's put another example just in case it's not clear. You have one?
Yes. So there's the situation that you are at work, for example, and you have a difficult situation with your boss that you always feel that things are not going right. The communication is not always stuck, and you feel like, okay, there's something off. And when that is happening, and you notice, okay, whenever he's telling me this, I can't concentrate anymore. When he's like micromanaging or she's micromanaging, that I can't focus, I can't figure things out. I just lose track of everything. Mm-hmm. And then noticing, okay, what the insight might have been that for you, the micromanaging is not the right way for you to work. So you actually need freedom, creativity. You want to create things because you're such a creative person. And you're like, okay, I want to actually do something different, make a huge event and invite people and have a in-person event, for example. That's the insight, because you love it so much. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? So now you could have the insight and figure out, okay, I'm not actually the person that wants to work in front of the computer, but through this insight, you get the idea and the new perspective. Maybe I'm actually either in the wrong job or I'm doing the wrong tasks in the company. Mm-hmm. And so the practical things could be, how can you put your strength to action? Make out a plan. Figure out what job you want.
That's a big insight, like life-changing insight. Yes. And it feels like it has, as you were talking, that there's the component of the cognitive elements and the component of the behavioral elements. So we should think about both. And when it's just an insight of every time I think that I'm useless, I will switch it into a neutral narrative or a more positive narrative where I think, you're not useless, here's why, let's say. That's the cognitive aspect. And sometimes that's all that you need. But sometimes if you realize that the job is not for you, then that means that you need to get your resume ready and start applying to some new jobs or figure out what's next in your career. And both are important. So we take care of the inside and the behaviors that are a consequence of the cognitive aspect.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're ready.
Yeah. So we have a plan. We get practical and know what we want to change and how we can do it.
Exactly. So let's repeat the steps so far. You first get an insight. Second, you enhance it. You make it big and check how much is affecting your life. Third, you decide to change. You flip that switch in your mind that you want to change it. Fourth, you get practical. How are you going to put this into action? Whether if it's just a cognitive process that you think differently, or whether you need to take action behaviorally. So actually make some steps. And then the fifth step is go through with it. And the moment that you decide to make these changes, you will probably find out that it's not as easy as you thought, as the insight revealed, because the insight is very beautiful and pure. But the moment that you're trying to change it, you will encounter resistance from yourself, from your environment. You will notice that there are some things that are more complicated than what you thought. So when you get through with it, like when you're going to do it, you will need to iterate.
Yeah.
Many times your response. So in the getting practical thing is like almost you will bounce off of step 5 and 4 over and over again and devise different plans and try different strategies, because it's very rare that the first time that you try to change it just lands and it's perfect. Like as you were, Julian was saying in the beginning, you had the insight so many times that it's not worth it to self-pity yourself. Yet you didn't change anything, and you didn't iterate the process of changing. So then you actually never got to the part of evolving out of it. And it's in the 5th step where you actually evolve out of it, when you put it into action and you iterate over and over again.
I had so many days after this insight that I still noticed for like 1 or 2 days I was trapped into that way of thinking. Even though I made the decision, even though I knew some tools out, that didn't always work. And so I needed to find new ways. Oh, okay, I need to find something bigger. Let's go for a walk. Let's do a workout rather than just breathing. So there need to iterate based on the situation what tools work. And sometimes I need to talk to somebody else, meet friends, which was actually a problem at Corona times. So there are many factors then playing in to continuously change. And that's after the insight, if you got the insight and followed the other steps, that's what you continuously will do. And I'm still doing it. I still notice sometimes that it sometimes comes up. So I need to find a way again on how to deal with it. Yeah. But it becomes easier.
And there's a lot of work in the cognitive to actually fine-tune your internal processes so you don't fall so easily into the old patterns, because it all starts in the mind, in the neural pathways that were carved when you were very little. And then you basically, what you have to do is create a new highway on your head, on your brain, that it's almost overriding the previous thinking patterns. So that takes time. It's not the brain is not so keen on letting go of old patterns. So chances are that every time you go to the supermarket, you will have to talk yourself out of not buying sugary, ultra processed things. Like, it literally happens to me. You can ask Julian. Like, I stare at the cookie section for at least 2 or 3 minutes, looking at the cookies and being like, is there one that is fine? That doesn't just have chemistry and sugar in it? I never find one, to be honest. But I never lose hope. It takes a while.
But these are the 5 steps.
Let's repeat them one last time for the people in the back.
So, number 1. The first step is getting an insight. Easy. We always get them some time or the other. Second step, enhancing it and making it big. Seeing the whole magnitude of it and what areas of your life are affected by it. Third, decide to change. Putting in the commitment and consciously deciding that you want a different behavior or a different thought. Fourth, get practical. Make those steps happen. So whatever plan you create in this step, wherever you want to go, whatever direction or different way of behaving you have, line it out and get to it. The 5th step is then really going through it, making it happen and iterate. So you notice some behaviors, some ways of thinking you wanted to change. They might work, the practical steps that you created for yourself, but they don't always. And so that's when the last part of the 5th step comes in, iterate. Come up with new ideas, figure it out again until it becomes easier and easier. And the new you will emerge out of that one insight. I don't know where that came from, but it sounds cool.
An Instagram post. Okay, so those are the 5 steps of what to do when you get an insight. And I guess now you understand what we were saying in the beginning, that an insight by themselves, it's nothing. It's great. It's good. You figured that you haven't...
I think yesterday I had 4 insights.
Yeah. You figured that, you have a codependent relationship with your mom and you're avoidant with your partner. Yes, you figure that. Okay. What are you going to do about it? That's the actual question. So now you have 5 steps on how to integrate your insights, and hopefully you put them into practice. We will definitely, and we are doing it consistently. So we know it works.
Yeah, that's essentially the process we go through all the time, but now we have put it into those 5 steps, I think, to make it a lot clearer for us, but also for others now, for our coachees. Because I think it's nice to do it by yourself, but I think it's really hard to continuously do it. So either an accountability buddy or a coach is really helpful to go through it and to iterate and figure that you didn't solve it just yet. And then you have to go through it again.
Yep.
But that's the process, and slowly improving yourself. Just
Yeah.
1% better every now and then.
That's personal development in a nutshell.
Personal development 101.
Have an insight, integrated. Have another insight, integrated. Have another insight, integrated, and so on and so forth until the future, until you die. Okay.
Yay, that's life. Bye.
Yay! So we end on that note.
Some wisdom to everybody. You can die now.
No, not yet. You have a lot of growth to do. So thank you for staying with us through this journey. And we hope you have some good insights soon that you can apply this framework to.
Yes. Hopefully this framework gave you a little bit clarity on what to do to improve actually, and to do with your insights. And I think for us, it's awesome. So thank you for listening, and talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.